There is a woman in Kyoto who every morning at 6 a.m. does 5 small things before the rest of the world wakes up. She drinks a glass of warm water. She steps outside for a few minutes, even in the rain. She does not touch coffee for almost 2 hours. She walks slowly to a small shrine 3 blocks away and back. And for the first 30 minutes of her day, her phone stays exactly where she left it the night before, face down, untouched, silent. She is 61 years old. Her waist measurement has not changed in over a decade. She has never been on a diet. She does not own a set of dumbbells. And somewhere across the world, right now, someone is waking up, skipping breakfast, lacing up running shoes, and heading out the door for a punishing morning the workout. Someone who eats clean, who tracks every calorie, who has done everything the fitness industry has told them to do, and who still cannot lose the weight sitting around their middle. What if the difference between these two people has almost nothing to do with diet, and almost nothing to do with exercise, and almost everything to do with a single hormone that spikes in your body within 30 minutes of waking up every single day, whether you notice it or not? By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what that hormone is, why it's quietly working against you, and 5 small, free, almost invisible shifts used for generations in Japan that can begin reversing it as early as tomorrow morning. Before we get to the 5 habits, we need to take apart an equation almost everyone believes without ever questioning it. The equation is this: belly fat is a math problem. Eat less, move more, and the fat disappears. It is the foundation of nearly every diet plan, every fitness app, every gym membership sales pitch on the planet. And for an enormous number of people, it simply doesn't hold up. Not because they aren't trying hard enough, but because the equation leaves out one variable entirely: a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol isn't the villain it's sometimes made out to be. It's the hormone that gets you out of bed, gives you alertness, and helps you respond to the demands of the day. Scientists have a name for its natural morning surge, the cortisol awakening response, or CAR. Within about 30 minutes of waking, cortisol levels can rise by roughly 50%, a completely normal, even necessary part of being human. The problem isn't that this spike happens. The problem is what happens when it's pushed too high, too fast, or kept elevated for too long. A body that perceives itself to be under sustained stress shifts into what researchers describe as a protective fat-storing state. And it doesn't store that fat evenly. Multiple studies, including research published in the journal Obesity, have linked elevated morning cortisol specifically to increased abdominal fat. Not the thighs, not the arms, the abdomen, where the body can wrap it around the organs like a kind of biological insulation. This is why so many people can do everything right: cut sugar, train hard, eat on schedule, and still carry stubborn weight at the waistline. They're fighting a hormonal pattern with tools that were never designed to touch it. So what does touch it? Japan has some of the lowest rates of abdominal obesity among industrialized nations. And researchers who've looked closely keep arriving at the same answer. It isn't a diet. It isn't a supplement. It's what happens or doesn't happen in the first 30 to 90 minutes after waking up. 5 small adjustments. Let's go through all 5, because the order they happen in matters just as much as the habits themselves. The first habit is the simplest, and also the one most people get backwards without realizing it. After 7 or 8 hours of sleep with 0 fluid intake, your body wakes up in a quiet state of dehydration. Your cells are, in a very literal sense, running on reserves. And here's what most of us do at exactly that moment. We walk into the kitchen and reach for coffee. Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman has talked about this repeatedly. The first thing your body needs in the morning is hydration, not stimulation. Hitting an already dehydrated, already cortisol-rising body with caffeine is, in his words, close to pouring fuel on a fire that's already lit. The Japanese alternative is almost embarrassingly simple. A glass of warm water, not cold, sometimes with a small pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of lemon. The warmth gently signals the digestive system to come back online. The salt helps replace minerals like sodium and magnesium that the body burns through overnight, and magnesium specifically plays a role in regulating cortisol. The lemon adds vitamin C, which a study from the University of Alabama found could meaningfully blunt cortisol spikes following stress. 2 minutes, 1 glass, and before you've done anything else, you've sent your nervous system a very specific message. We're safe. We don't need to brace for anything yet. That message matters because it's about to be tested by habit number 2. And what happens here sets the tone for everything that follows. Here's something that sounds almost too simple to matter. And yet the research behind it is some of the most consistent in all of circadian science. Within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking, get outside. Actual outside, not through a window, not via a phone screen, for 5 to 10 minutes of natural light. Why does this matter so much? Because light hitting your eyes in the morning is the primary signal your brain uses to set your circadian rhythm, your internal 24-hour clock. And when that clock drifts out of sync, everything downstream of it drifts too. Sleep quality, hunger hormones, metabolism, and yes, cortisol regulation. Dr. Sachin Panda at the Salk Institute has spent decades researching exactly this. His work has consistently linked disrupted circadian rhythms with both elevated cortisol and increased visceral, that is, deep abdominal, fat. Here's the chain reaction. Morning light triggers serotonin production during the day. That serotonin becomes the raw material for melatonin at night. Melatonin gives you deeper sleep. Deeper sleep means a calmer cortisol curve the next morning. One small action in the morning is quietly setting up your hormones for the next day, not just this one. In Japan, this is built into something that doesn't even look like a habit. A short walk called sanpo, often just to a station, a shrine, or the corner store, not for fitness, just for light. But the sunlight is only half the story, because how you move through that light matters just as much. And that's where habit number 4 comes back into this, in a way that might surprise you. First, though, there's something that needs to happen before you walk anywhere. And it's the habit most people get wrong without even realizing they're doing it. This one might be the most uncomfortable habit on this list. So stick with it, because the mechanism behind it is fascinating. Don't drink coffee for the first 90 minutes after waking. Here's why. The moment you wake up, your brain is saturated with a chemical called adenosine, the molecule responsible for that groggy, sleepy feeling. Normally, your body clears adenosine naturally within about 90 minutes of waking. Coffee works by blocking the receptors adenosine binds to. But here's the catch. If you drink coffee before that natural clearing happens, you're blocking receptors that are still full. The adenosine doesn't disappear, it just waits. And when the caffeine wears off later in the day, often right around 2 or 3 p.m., all of that backlogged adenosine hits you at once. The crash that follows is read by your body as a stress event, Cortisol rises, cravings, especially for sugar, follow, and the cycle that started this morning quietly repeats itself in the afternoon. The Japanese concept of ma, the deliberate pause, the intentional gap, applied here simply means giving your body those 90 minutes to wake up on its own terms before introducing a stimulant. Dr. Huberman, again, has been vocal about this exact practice, delaying his own first coffee by 90 to 120 minutes every morning. The reward isn't just avoiding an afternoon crash. It's that when you do have your coffee, it actually works the way it's supposed to. Clean energy, no jagged edges. So far that's water, light, and a pause before stimulation. But there's a fourth habit, and it directly contradicts something almost the entire fitness industry has told you for years. Here's where this gets genuinely counterintuitive. We've been taught that harder is always better, that an intense morning workout is the fastest way to burn fat. And for general fitness, intensity absolutely has its place. But research increasingly suggests that timing matters as much as intensity. And the worst possible time for a high-intensity workout might be right when your cortisol is naturally peaking. A study published in the Journal of Endocrinological Investigation found that intense exercise performed in the morning, layered directly on top of the cortisol awakening response, can keep cortisol elevated for hours afterward. You feel great in the moment, endorphins are real, but your hormones are quietly paying for it for the rest of the day. The Japanese alternative isn't do nothing, it's Sampo again, but now in motion. 20 to 30 minutes of easy, unhurried walking. And here's the part that surprised even researchers. A team at Stanford identified something called optic flow, the visual experience of your surroundings sliding past you on either side as you walk. This specific pattern of visual motion has a measurable calming effect on the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. An overactive amygdala is like a smoke alarm that won't stop ringing, and a ringing smoke alarm keeps cortisol elevated. Walking, with the world moving past you, turns the alarm down. Not a treadmill facing a wall, not a stationary bike. Outside, where things move. To the people who've done this for generations, Sampo was never exercise. It was something closer to medicine. And the fifth habit, the one researchers describe as maybe the most important of all, has nothing to do with movement at all. It's about what you don't do. This is the habit almost nobody follows, and the one that may matter most. For the first 30 minutes after waking, don't touch your phone. No notifications, no messages, no headlines. Here's the mechanism. The instant you look at your phone after waking, your brain is flooded. Notifications, messages, headlines. And each one triggers a tiny spike of dopamine paired with a tiny spike of cortisol. In a matter of seconds, your nervous system shifts from rest mode into reactive mode. Dr. Anna Lemke, a Stanford psychiatrist and author of Dopamine Nation, has described how this kind of early, repeated stimulation raises your baseline for the rest of the day, meaning you need more stimulation, more stress, just to feel normal. More cortisol, more fat stored around the middle. Seijaku, stillness, silence, tranquility, simply means protecting that first half hour. Drink your water, step outside, breathe, walk. Let your nervous system boot up gently instead of being jolted awake. Think of your brain like a computer. You wouldn't start opening 50 browser tabs before the operating system has finished loading, but that's exactly what checking your phone at 6 a.m. does to your nervous system. 5 habits, all free, all beginning before most people have even had their first cup of coffee. Let's bring it all together because the order matters as much as the habits themselves. Water first, not coffee. Sunlight within the first half hour. A 90-minute pause before caffeine. A walk instead of an intense workout. And 30 untouched, phone-free minutes to let your nervous system wake up on its own terms. None of this requires a gym membership. None of it requires a meal plan, a supplement, or a single dollar spent. What it requires is something much smaller and much harder to sell: rethinking the order of your first hour. Because that stubborn weight around your middle was never really about willpower. It was about hormones. And hormones, more than almost anything else in the body, respond to habit. So here's what we'd suggest. Not next week. Tomorrow morning. Tonight, leave a glass of water somewhere you'll see it before your phone. That's the only preparation needed. Tomorrow, when you wake, drink the water first. Step outside, even briefly, for some natural light. Hold off on coffee for as long as you reasonably can. If you have time, take a short, easy walk. And for the first half hour, just don't reach for your phone. That's it. 5 small shifts in one order, repeated daily. The woman in Kyoto with her glass of warm water has never once described any of this as a routine. To her, it's simply how a morning begins. If this changed the way you think about your own mornings, share it with someone who's been doing everything right and still can't figure out why nothing's changing. They may be one quiet morning away from finding out why. This has been a look into the science and philosophy behind morning rhythm and hormonal health. Not a prescription, a perspective. If this hit you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and drop a comment letting us know which habit you're starting with today. We'll see you in the next one.